episode 14 of Musings of a Chaos Pixie. Now, this month's podcast is special for two reasons. Firstly, July is my Patreon page's birthday month, as the page began on the 1st of July 2020. And because of this particular podcast is being shared with the public as well as with my patrons. So it will be on the public feed, on my Patreon feed with no paywall, and obviously on YouTube as well, so people can sit and listen and watch over on YouTube. The second reason that it's a special podcast is because it's my first ever creative guest podcast. And I'm really excited, actually. I was quite nervous before we recorded. We recorded like a week or so ago, as I've not hosted a guest before. But it was fun to record and everything. So this is my first creative interview, and my first guest, who I'm really excited to introduce to you all and to speak to in interview, is David, also known as BarbDWitt Cosplay. He's a super talented cosplayer and crafter, and he joined me a few weeks ago to chat about his cosplay experience so far and his plans for the future. So grab a cuppa and a biscuit and get comfy while you listen. So hello, David. Welcome to Musings of a Chaos Pixie and episode 14 of my podcast, and thank you for being my first interviewee and guinea pig.
No problem at all. Happy to do it.
And it's actually really nice to see you for the first time since January 2020. It's been 18 months.
Yes, I was working out this morning. It's 16 months since the lockdown started back last year. And then, of course, the last time was my birthday, which was, as you say, 18 months ago.
Yeah,
Just
crazy.
Scary.
Yeah, thank goodness for the internet. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen you at all. So yeah, you are my first interviewee for my creative interviews series, I suppose, as this rolls on. And I thought I'd open up just to warm us both up and stop us feeling a little bit nervous by asking some sort of quick fire questions. So are you ready?
Always.
Okay, right. An easy one first. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Batman or Punisher?
I am the knight. Batman.
Of course. Okay. What's your favourite biscuit?
Oh, this has changed since going gluten-free in our flat. Oh, dear. I do like a custard cream, but don't really have them very often. So, I don't know. Oh, this isn't quickfire at all.
Oh, what is celiac safe that is good and a favourite in your flat now? Apparently biscuits are evil if you're celiac.
Yeah, well, it's very tricky, and they're not gluten-free versions aren't that great. I'm just going to say custard cream.
That works. You can have a custard cream when you're far enough away to not cause contamination. Okay, last two. We've only got 5, so don't panic. Okay, right. Vampires or zombies?
I would say zombies, but since playing Resident Evil Village, vampires.
Okay, cool. And my last question, potentially controversial, we'll see. Christmas or Halloween?
If you'd asked me this, I don't know, 5 years ago, I'd say Christmas, but these days probably Halloween.
It's hard, right? See, I love Halloween, but I love Christmas for the family stuff. So, yeah, it's tricky. It is a controversial one. Okay, right. So should we do the interview proper now? So for those people who haven't met you before online or in real life, could you briefly describe what you do in cosplay and sort of how you got into it?
Sure. So I got into cosplay, I don't know, the precise date varies every time I think about it. I got into cosplay actually as a result of attending secret cinema and immersive theatre movie events, and where I initially did when they did Back to the Future back in 2014. My wife Catherine and I enjoyed them so much we went and did Empire Strikes Back the following year. And about that time, they announced they were doing Star Wars Celebration in London
I remember.
in 2016. So now took tickets for that because it was the year that Rogue One was about to come out. So they had a load of costumes from that, which was really cool.
It's nice to have some good memories from 2016 because that's when everything went wrong.
Indeed. So for that, Catherine wore her Jedi outfit she put together for Empire previous year, and I kind of like expanded what I had to be full on kind of Jedi robes and everything. Had such fun at that. And then I kind of thought, oh, really enjoyed that, going to a con and everything. So I looked up to what other things are on, and then saw that at London they also at the XL they would do the MCM Comic Con. So did that and thought, oh, I quite enjoyed cosplay. So I thought, okay, then well, try and do something simple, and ended up going down the kind of computer game route. And then I guess my first cosplay for that was doing a Vault Survivor from Fallout 4, and then it kind of spiraled from there. So I started off doing like mainly game-based cosplays, and then that expanded into kind of film-based cosplays. So yeah, it's kind of been like a gradually accelerating, expanding boulder going down a hill.
It's like a rabbit hole, isn't
yeah.
it? Or like people with tattoos, they say it's addictive. Once you've had one, you can't stop. You have to keep going.
Oh yeah, I've got about 5 other cosplays at the back of my mind.
I'll pick your mind for that one later. Okay, so what is your philosophy, there we go, for choosing a character to cosplay? How do you choose what version, if there's several versions? And are there any characters that you would like be like, no, I'm definitely never going near that one? That's like 3 questions, sorry. Should we go back to the first one? What's your philosophy for choosing a character?
I always go for cosplay. I always cosplay characters that I like. I like either the source material, the universe it's set in. I don't tend to go for cosplays that I'm unfamiliar with because while I'm not like big on getting fully into character, like if I do a cosplay, I try and at least be able to kind of vaguely act how that character
Definitely.
appears.
I've seen you as Deadpool at cons, and it's amazing. It's like, who are you and what have you done with my brother?
Yeah, introvert goes, extrovert appears, miraculous. So there's that. When it comes to selecting a cosplay, I tend to. It usually is a result of seeing concept art, like if it's a game. Like when a game gets announced, it's like, oh, I'd quite like to do that. Like like the recently announced kind of Gotham Knights game, which features Red Hood and Batwoman, and like, there was a new variant of Red Hood in there. So, oh, can I do another Red Hood? Just so you know, I've done a lot of Red Hood cosplays.
We'll share some of those images.
Yeah, and so it always has to be something that jumps out at me that I think I can either make or adapt quite easily, and B, that I would enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's the enjoyment bit has to be there because it's cosplay, isn't it? It's not, you're not acting in a role, like you're doing it for fun and because you enjoy it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I really struggle to paint things that I'm not enjoying painting. So it has to have that sort of spark of interest for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and as far as things I wouldn't, no-nos for me, it's like, as I kind of mentioned before, a character or cosplay I can't connect with. Like an example of this was when I cosplayed Captain America and his like stealth suit from Civil War, not Civil War, Winter Soldier. And while I loved the cosplay, I loved the look and everything, I quite enjoyed wearing it. I only wore it a couple of times before kind of getting rid of it because I enjoyed wearing it, but I couldn't really do the character very well. Maybe I'm just too chaotic.
Possibly. You prefer the dark side of DC, that's all it
Yeah.
is. Captain America is all of the shining beacon of happy from Marvel.
Dark or anti-heroes, it seems.
So kind of leading on from that, I guess, what has been your favourite cosplay so far and why? That must be really hard because you've got easily over 20 cosplays that I can think of, I think.
This is me biting my lip.
Yeah, sorry. Well, we've got you on camera. I don't know if you'll be able to see that on the film.
I guess the easy answer would be Deadpool, because I've been probably cosplaying Deadpool the most and consistently since I really got into cosplay. It's the cosplay I've done multiple iterations of and the most updates to. And it's the one that I know if I cosplay Deadpool, I'm going to have fun at an event or a photo shoot or what have you, because as I love the character and reading the comics and the films, funnily enough, I know I can like do some of the poses and some of the moves and
Yeah.
what have you. But I'm going to be controversial and come up with a second one
Okay.
and say that also all the Red Hood variants I've done, because it's another character involving red, and it's another character that is very much an anti-hero, a bit on the borderline between good and bad.
Yeah. Your Red Hood cosplays are wicked good as well, and really interesting to see you build them over time, because the helmet, is that the right? The hood part is so kind of intricate and technical, I guess, to get made. I'm guessing you get them 3D printed, a lot of them now, and then
Well,
shape them.
the first one was 3D printed, and then I kind of sanded and filled before painting, and then the subsequent ones have been made out of foam from templates.
Okay.
But then a similar principle applies by filling and priming, and then meant that the finish was broadly the same, but yeah, had the greater flexibility and also lightweight.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Wearing a heavy 3D printed mask all day gets a bit, can be a bit uncomfortable.
So, have there been any obstacles that you've had to overcome with cosplay or to do the cosplay, sort of like confidence or cost of materials? Because I know some of your suits are really expensive, skills and abilities, which I guess keep improving over time. Or are they all just sort of challenges rather than obstacles? And it's like, oh, how can I do this? How can I get better at this? How can I do this cheaper if I can't afford this right now?
I definitely see it more as a challenge. Like everything I do, I try and say, oh, what can I learn from this? What can I realistically do based on my existing skill set and what have you? That being said, probably the two things I probably find most challenging within that challenge realm is confidence. Like mentioned earlier, like I can get into character quite well if I understand the character and the cosplay and the imagery and what have you. But before suiting up and while traveling to a con or what have you, I'll be nervous about it. I'll be like, oh, what happens if no one appreciates it, or if I'm just wandering around and what have you. Like the greatest high from going to a con is having someone run up to you and ask for a photo.
Yeah.
It's like, so you recognize my character, even if it's not an obvious one like Deadpool. And secondly, it's probably the range of skills I've had to develop with cosplay. Is like probably my third cosplay I did was my Mr. Bubbles Big Daddy cosplay from the BioShock games. That was probably my sort of ambitious but eventually successful big build cosplay, because my skill set working with foam and plastic-based paints that you need to use on foam was very limited at the time. So it was very much a steep learning curve. So learning how to shape and mold foam, use epoxy-based resins to create the shell, and then carve out the insides to make it wearable, what have you, and adapting bits from the concept art to actually make it wearable in practice was quite a steep learning curve, but it was a fun challenge.
It was impressive as well. For anyone that hasn't seen photos or footage or seen David in the Big Daddy outfit, to give you a sense of the scale of it, we had to borrow our dad's car, which was an estate car, to drive to the Excel Centre because the costume, the body of it was too big to fit in David's car.
Which was also technically an estate.
An estate mini though, so so a small estate. And yeah, it was once you were actually in it from the car park, we couldn't get. So at the Excel Centre, the car park walk into where we were parked, walk into the centre is all one level, but then there are stairs to get up from the car park entry to the main concourse, and we couldn't fit in the elevator with David dressed up because he was too big. So then there was this spectacle of our friend George leading him up the stairs because obviously your vision was
waist and below.
Yeah, vision impaired costume. So George was ahead of you on the stairs. Your feet were huge because you had kind of overshoes on.
Yeah, they were like they were made to look like heavy duty diving shoes. But there was like skate shoes glued on the inside, but even then it was like twice the size of a normal shoe.
Yeah, so you kind of had to almost twist your feet sideways on the stairs because obviously you couldn't step with your toe because your toe wasn't actually at the toe of your shoe. So there was that. And then there was me behind on the stairs praying that you didn't fall backwards. And then loads of people around the stairs just watching this taking photos. But it was fun. I think that was one of my first times almost going to a con with you fully dressed up. I had been with you and you were in an outfit and you had the cool skyhook.
Yeah, BarbDWitt
gun thing. Here we go. This is showing my ignorance here. But yeah, so that was just the scale of Big Daddy. It was huge, but wicked cool. And even in the car park, as you were getting dressed, there were these two little kids that were like, "Mum, can we go and take a photo?" Do you remember? That was really cool. So sorry, I've butted in there because I was like, "Oh, story I can tell."
It was like, hang on a minute while I finish shooting.
Yeah. A half-dressed Big Daddy.
It's like when we were actually outside the XO at the same time, some people would come out, can I have a photo? As I was kind of cooling off for a bit. It's like, hang on a minute while I put it back on again.
Yeah, because you kind of had to lift the whole thing over your head, didn't you? Yeah, it was it. And it was one of those May XLs where it was really warm. Yeah, really, really warm. Yeah, it was a wicked good day. So yeah, I guess your skills have improved since then because you've done quite a lot of foam mold builds type thing since, more with armor, I guess, than with like making like a whole shell.
Yes, I've moved on to more kind of modular armor pieces now. So the main examples of that in the past year have been my Arkham Knight armor in two variants, blue and red. And more recently, working on my Deathwatch Mandalorian armor from The Mandalorian, funnily enough. So that's more like armor pieces that can get attached or clipped onto, in the case of Arkham Knight, a leather vest and combat trousers. So much more practical, much more easier to remove to cool down between wandering around and such like.
Yeah, and for actually commuting to the cons in the first place.
Yep. Don't need to take a car, technically, that really.
So, what's your favourite part of the whole process? Is it choosing the character that you're going to cosplay, or planning how you're going to build it, actually building it, or is it sort of the first outing or first shoots or first con that you take it to? Or is it kind of hard to choose? Because I guess they must all have their own sort of buzz and enjoyment for different reasons.
Probably going to break that down into three.
Yeah, that's cool. There are no rules here.
So the bit I probably enjoy most when deciding on a cosplay is looking through all the concept art. or images from the film or the TV series or the game, just to kind of get, oh yeah, I want to give that one a go. Oh yeah, that really looks really cool. When it comes to the build, the bit I find the most rewarding is when I get into the paint phase, because up to that point, it's just usually lots and lots of black craft foam that has been glued together with contact adhesive, pulled apart when it's gone wrong, and re-glued with more contact adhesive.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real.
So when it comes to applying the paint, you actually start seeing that massive black foam turn into something that actually looks heftier than it actually is. And then when it comes to the wearing, it's probably the second outing, because the first outing is usually, oh, is it all going to stick together? Is it going to fall apart?
Yeah.
Like, can I move around easily? What happens when I kneel down for a photo? Oh dear, I've just cracked my resin. So the second outing is probably once I've done some repairs and some improvements to what I'm made, so it's a bit more resilient and can cope with the rigors of being worn all day and worn in various different situations and locations.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. Yeah. So since you've been cosplaying more regularly or for a longer period of time, you've also started building some props and costume pieces for other cosplayers. Would you like to do more of that in the future? And do you want to give any sort of examples? Can you give examples of stuff you've worked on for people without spoiling any new cosplays for them?
Yes, it's something that I've done, or I've dabbled, shall we say. Usually, it's most of the stuff I've done for other people to date has been Deadpool related. So I went through a phase of making like shin guards and foot armor and ankle armor for people. It's not like full on movie replica, but a fair approximation to it. And most of the people who received them have quite liked it and used it, or used it temporarily before moving on to other things. Reason for doing it is more for fun, more of a challenge to see how I could do it. At the time, it was morely just like people would like cover the cost of the materials, and I'd do it usually because I was making one for myself. So I thought, oh, why not double up and what have you. Other examples is at one point I adapted the pair of foam katanas I'd bought for my first iteration of Deadpool to make them look more close to their appearance in Deadpool 2. So I can never remember the terminology on the katanas, but I shortened them to make them more akin to the katanas that appear in the film, which is sort of shorter blade compared to normal katanas.
Okay.
I also made the back scabbard. Again, not the right technical term, apologies.
I can Google this and add it into the notes, perhaps.
And then added like the bits, the red elements, and then I also added proper katana strapping.
I remember you doing the wraps on the hand, the grips.
So that was a learning curve, like, because you have to keep everything so taut all the time as you're doing the twists. So I made about, I think, 3 sets for different people. More recently, I'm working on one for a friend. It's I won't go into too much details, but it is a more full armor build. The progress has been challenging, mainly because of COVID and not being able to meet up to do test fittings. And then more recently, it's been too hot to work with foam because it can get a bit difficult with the gluing, to be honest, when you're in hot environments, because contact adhesive, by its very nature, you need to let it dry to a haze before gluing the two parts together. But at the same time, you lose some of the kind of, because it dries so quickly. Once the bond is quite strong from the outset, so the ability to kind of then
there's no repositioning going on if it's okay.
No, without tearing and having to start again. So I'll be hopefully getting back to that in the next week or so, and hopefully have it all done so they can wear it at cons if they start up again properly in the autumn, all being well.
I was going to say that. It was one of my next questions, actually, is how have you, as a cosplayer, um, dealt with the pandemic, sort of with respect to not being able to meet up with people in person? And do you think it's had a lasting effect on the wider cosplay community or con community?
I've coped by just carrying on.
Yeah.
um, uh,
It must have been a good thing to take your mind off of everything, all of the bad things happening with the pandemic and whatever in the news. They're just to sort of almost sort of meditation while you build.
yes, like I do find that building and painting quite therapeutic, generally. As you say, takes my mind off things and you're getting in the zone of color matching and dry brushing and shading and what have you. So yeah, I just carried on working on the cosplays I planned to do or fancy giving a go. Fortunately, a lot of material providers were still operating mail order throughout the kind of lockdowns
Yeah.
last year, so you can still get materials and everything. I've also had the opportunity to do a couple of photo shoots during the COVID restrictions. So while I haven't been able to go to any conventions, I've been able to at least do a couple of photo shoots and get to show off my cosplays and for the guys to do their wizardry and video and photo editing and making me look good. I'm looking forward to going back to cons, but the one thing that still sticking at the back of my mind is obviously what safety measures they're putting in place in light of the recent delay in the full lockdown restrictions being lifted. Hopefully that concern will fall away because they're now looking to be in the autumn, which is a couple of months after the new lockdown lift date that they're
Yeah.
muting for July. So hopefully everything will be maybe not completely back to normal, but a reasonable close approximation.
Yeah. And in theory, hopefully by then, more people in the UK where we are will have gone through the vaccination program. So hopefully that would help with safety that way as well, I guess. Because it'll be really strange. Because usually, say, London Comic Con's normally rammed, isn't it? By the afternoon, it's really busy and it's buzzing. And that's kind of part of the fun. It's like you see so many people in different costumes and things going on. It will be hard, I guess, for them to kind of almost recoup the cost of running it with guests and things if they have to have like much less capacity filled.
Yes, I think certain cons are doing, as you say, reduced capacity or um, certainly putting in like one-way systems or mandating the use of masks and what have you, which will affect the kind of experience a bit. But I fully appreciate that people who go to cons might not want to do that. But on the flip side, pretty much all my cosplays involve masks, so such a mandate doesn't necessarily bother me that much.
True, true. How do you think it's affected the community as a whole? Because I think, from what I've seen from a kind of on the edge of the cosplay community, I've seen generally everyone kind of pulling together and supporting each other online through groups, and it's what I've seen's been pretty positive, really. And I know there's one Facebook group that we both belong to where they've done a virtual con online, and I'm sure other cons have run similar things in place of actual in-person events. So
Yeah, so like as you say, there's been like small scale kind of community based events that have happened. I know some of the larger conventions have done like online cosplay competitions, so you were able to like submit video and photos of your cosplay, and they were still able to do like the big cosplay competitions and championships through that route. So I think out of necessity, events and people have generally adapted, and while some people probably no different to when there wasn't a pandemic happening, that people like would always push their cosplay builds on the back burner and do con crunch and what have you. um, uh, which is fine. I've done it. Always a bit hairy, but I've learned from that, and now I plan things a lot more, so
Nothing
I'm not rushed.
nothing quite focuses the mind like a deadline in the next 3 hours.
Yeah. But yeah, I think people generally have adapted and either taken a break and shifted their focus elsewhere, or they've carried on and just used the time as a community or individually just to work on what they wanted to work on without necessarily thinking, oh, I have a con next week or next month that I really want to wear this to. So like, hopefully by stuff happening in the autumn, like my Deathwatch Mando will be finished and would have been kind of had its shakedowns done, so I can easily take it and wear it comfortably and confidently. And similarly, the few repairs and improvements I've had to make to other cosplayers will be done and dusted, so I'll be ready and raring to go, and hopefully other cosplayers out there have a similar mindset.
I
But they,
guess the biggest problem will be choosing which of the 17 cosplays you made during lockdown to take to the 2-day event.
it's not that bad, honest.
I've seen.
I've only made three. No, two. No, three.
One thing that you have taken up, I think since lockdowns began last year, was you've started streaming on Twitch, both playing games and streaming as you're building cosplays in the Batcave. How did you decide to get into it and take that step? And what's your sort of favorite parts of doing it? And do you have any tips for anyone that's interested in it? I should spread these questions out more, shouldn't I? Sorry. How did you get into it? What made you decide to start twitching?
I got into actually through when you initially went into the lockdown back in March 2020, and I shifted to working from home all the time. Cons weren't happening, photo shoots weren't happening. You couldn't really travel around, so I couldn't even really do any cosplay work because a lot of my building work these days takes place in the Batcave, also known as my dad's shed, where all the tools are and where the space is to swing a cat, because living in a flat isn't very good for cosplay making. But anyway, I digress. I started watching Twitch streams, specifically the 86 Floors, who are cosplay videographers and photographers. They do great videos of cosplayers and stuff. And they'd already started streaming at the back end of 2019. And I started watching their streams and what have you. And then they asked me to start modding their streams, so keeping an eye on their chat. So, which was good fun. I then discovered other kind of streamers playing games that I liked. Got interested in that. And then I guess just out of just seeing other people pick it up and give it a go, I thought, oh yeah, I'm kind of running out of new things to try and do. I thought I'd give it a go. So I kind of got a reasonable setup done. I kind of downloaded the streaming software that you need and did a gaming stream, and then thought, like, how can I kind of make my work at what I stream a bit different from the norm? So I figured, I'd do a stream once a week where I'm working on various bits of cosplay, again from the Batcave, and they've proved reasonably successful. I recently, last weekend, actually met all the requirements to reach affiliate, so I've now kind of been spending the past week adding all the extra bits and pieces that you get access to once reaching affiliate. So I have kind of emotes now, so all based around my past and present cosplays that I've done, which were done by a friend that I got to know during lockdown from streaming and watching other streams and cosplay and Discord servers, which is how I've kept in touch with other cosplayers and people during
Yeah.
the past 16 months. So yeah, I'm looking to continue, see where it goes and what have you.
As a viewer, it's been kind of fun actually to sit and watch you build things from the Batcave while I've been drawing or painting or whatever, and chatting with you that way, sort of once a weekish, and chatting to other people watching you too. That's been kind of cool.
Yeah, one element of streaming is obviously if you're doing it to an audience, and well, one thing you learn quite quickly is being able to talk to yourself, without necessarily having an active audience. But when being able to chat with the people that are watching, and even if on matters relating to what you're currently doing or random things entirely, it kind of just adds a bit of that kind of human contact.
It's nice, isn't it? Rather than just talking to yourself. Yeah, it's fun. I did want to ask actually, because I find when I'm videoing myself painting, even if it's just for a time lapse and I don't have to talk or anything, I find the camera being there quite off-putting. I sort of fall out of my natural flow of things. Have you found it difficult to kind of talk through your process as you're doing it for the stream and like fielding questions and stuff as you go? Do you find it distracting, or have you just kind of got a way of working with it now? Because you're keeping an eye on like the little chat box as it's going while you're painting or gluing or whatever it is you're doing.
Initially, I found it difficult because, particularly when I started doing the cosplay streams, I'd sometimes get engrossed in what I was doing, forget there was a chat going on. And I think during my first cosplay stream, because the setup was a bit janky, to say the least.
No, not janky. It's just baby steps. You have to learn that way.
I just didn't have a proper camera stand for my webcam and other bits like that, so it was kind of all precariously positioned. And I got raided by another channel, and I didn't realise I'd been raided. And just if you don't know what a raid is, it is when viewers from another streamer's channel get kind of lifted up from that person's channel and plonked into your channel, so to speak.
So you suddenly get a whole new audience that's just appeared from another place.
Sort of thing. So you might suddenly double in number of viewers you have without realising it. And during this first cosplay stream, I couldn't easily see the chat, and I didn't hear, and I hadn't set the sound up, so so the sound alert that would usually prompt me to go, what's that? didn't ring. So the first thing I noticed was a comment saying, "I don't think he's seen us." Okay, David, hello. And it was like, "Oh, pants, oh, hello, how's it going? Thanks for the raid."
Yeah, because there's normally like a weird alarm noise, isn't there, that goes off when that happens.
So I've learned from that now. And now it's still a bit, I don't know, compared to like how I used to do cosplay crafting kind of without an audience and cameras and what have you, where I just kind of crack on and chop and change from bits. So it just forces me to kind of be a bit more methodical and remember to kind of pause and explain what I'm doing. And
you actually need a plan as well. You can't just go, "Oh, I'm just going to like bodge around with this and then do a bit of that." You actually need a sort of plan of action for the episode, for the stream session. I don't know what you call it.
Just a stream.
Okay.
But I guess what going forwards, I can now, because having reached affiliate, my videos get stored for like a number of days, so I can now actually kind of use them and edit them together potentially, and make use of them a bit more, rather than this being a one-off thing that I do to a
That just disappears into the ether. Yeah, that would be really good actually. That'd be cool.
So yeah, I think initially nervous, slightly confused, slightly chaotic, but now I usually have a plan, even if that plan doesn't go entirely according to plan. Like, for example, if I'm pop riveting a Mandalorian gauntlet and the 3D print splits in the process, and then having to go, now we need to glue, fill, and reinforce this split. This is how we're going to do it.
It's all content. It's all content.
Yeah.
What's your favourite part of the streaming, do you think? Is it the interaction with people or?
Yeah, I think it's uh, again going back to what I said before. I think it's that interaction with people that are watching and asking questions, or if it's um, not questions, just sort of like talking about plans for the future and or excitement for something coming up. So recently it was like chatting to some of the people that have been on the same photo shoot as me and saying, oh, it'll be great to see the output of that photo shoot and the video that they're doing once it's all finished. Um, and yeah, just that kind of added interaction um, with people you might not necessarily know or not even met.
Yeah.
And it's like people that join saying, oh, I quite like what to see what you're doing. I'm going to ask a few questions, and then off the back of that, I've kind of like hopefully helped them with stuff they're working on, or
Yeah.
helped kind of give them some ideas on what to do or how they could go about doing it. Like people have asked me questions about how to go about building a prop weapon. I said, oh, do this, do that. If in doubt, refer to YouTube and Google for help, because I can guarantee someone's probably done it in the past.
Yeah, definitely. YouTube is a godsend, isn't it? Did you expect or hope to be where you are now with regard to cosplays and streaming and stuff? Or did you not really think about it? Was it just a hobby and this is just kind of the way the path's gone? I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone. There's like a Spitfire going over the house or something.
The brain cogs are just twisting. To be honest, I never really knew where, when I started out, like my cosplays were, as with a lot of cosplayers, was kind of purchased. I got bits and pieces from different makers and crafters, or just a shop bought kind of cosplay that I just got made to my size and what have you. So my Fallout 4 cosplay, I ordered the vault suit, I ordered some armor pieces, I repainted some airsoft armor and bits and pieces. And in the case of like BarbDWitt, it was all bought. I got the holster from a guy in Italy, made in leather, and this costume was made and ordered from, I think, China and what have you. And I just made a few subtle tweaks here and there. So it all came down to just like, oh, okay, well, I've done that. So let's see if I can try and make something. And then I kind of looked into the materials to use and how to go about doing that. Quite often, I'll, as with everything, 9 times out of 10, someone's probably already tried it before you or made it before you. So quite often, it's quite helpful being able to go online or and download a template for what you're making, which takes an awful lot of pressure off of you, because you don't have to kind of visualize how you'd make that from
Yeah.
a solid thing of armor into a series of bits of foam that you then glue together. So quite a lot of my cosplays, while I do all the painting and myself, the actual building of the armor pieces have been where I've used templates already made by people that have used 3D imaging software to break down the character models and then
Yeah.
do wizardry into turning it into a paper template that you just cut out, and then use that to cut the foam through and then glue all the bits together, and
Yeah.
by adding some straps and some Velcro to attach it to whatever you're wearing, like it certainly helps take the pressure off of it. But yeah, if I look back on if I knew where I'd be now with cosplay 4 years ago, I'd be going, all right, that's kind of cool. But I never expected it to go the way it did. Like I never expected to spend many years sourcing new improvements to Deadpool. But at the same time, I've enjoyed it, and going, oh, there's a new really cool crafter, I'll get a new pair of shin armor from them and some glove armor from another maker or what have you to add to the overall ensemble. I'll probably go back and make improvements to my Arkham Knight cosplays down the line because I've learned, even in the past year, I've learned my skill set has probably changed from what it was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
And if you compare my initial set of Arkham Knight armor, which had blue accents, to the version with red accents I did more recently, you compare them side by side, they're broadly the same, but you notice that the painting techniques I've used and the probably differ quite a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
So, don't know if that answers your question.
We'll go with it. That's cool. I think so. I guess when it starts off not just as as a fun hobby and spare time thing, you don't really think about what it's going to be eventually. You just kind of keep going with it. So it's kind of cool to see where it has gone from those early days to now, and to think where you might be in the next sort of 5 years. So
Yeah,
hopefully everything will be back to normal-ish and you'll be out and about wearing them a bit more often as well.
indeed. It'd be nice to actually get to wear. Like, I haven't actually worn my Arkham Knight armor, the blue version, rather than the red
No,
version.
actually, yeah, I've only seen photos of like cos tests, I guess, of it. I've not seen you out in action in it. Speaking of which, do you have any future cosplays or plans sort of for kind of, I guess, the back end of this year, start of next year, with hopefully, events opening up again? And obviously new material coming out to base cosplays off of, because there'll be more series of, I don't know, everything on the Disney Channel and, Star Wars World. And
Yes, I always have kind of half a dozen ideas at the back of my mind, or I would quite like to do that. But probably, maybe in the short to medium term, once I've finished the commission I mentioned earlier, I quite like to give Heisenberg from the recently released Resident Evil Village game, who visually looks a bit like Van Helsing from Dracula, with a mix of Magneto thrown in for good measure, because he can manipulate electromagnetic currents and go all Magneto on you. He kind of walks around with a very kind of steampunk-esque, well, not really steampunk, but a hammer that's made out of gears from what looks like the hammer bit looks like it's the gearbox from an automatic gearbox attached to a part of the crankshaft of a car, and then a handle, and then it's like all kind of like over coats, and yeah, it's very kind of cool aesthetic. Although I'd have to get used to wearing a wig, because he has kind of long, kind of greying hair, which is growing to be a problem in my case. Or not, as the case may be.
well, at least you've got nice short hair for a wig to go on easily. You don't have to be pinning your long hair up out of the way. That does sound cool, actually. The aesthetic sounds cool and quite different, I guess, from like the full-on sort of suit for Deadpool with the like proper overhead mask sort of thing. It'd be different to have like a wig and a hat and a
Pockets rather than utility pouches.
yeah.
The only thing to add, other than Heisenberg, I've got some ideas, like maybe there's a game released recently called It Takes Two, which is a game that's built around collaborative play between the two characters now. And I was thinking about maybe doing a cosplay of the one of the characters from that, which is kind of like the visual aesthetic. It's kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids mixed in with kind of almost a stop motion claymation vibe. So
Oh wow.
So like your character like had like the outfit has like massive buttons because
Like the
they're
bar
tiny,
was.
and the your hair is kind of leaves because the character it basically in the game it involves a couple that are about to separate, and the child doesn't want them to separate, so she kind of makes a wish that causes them to kind of become take over animate the little figures she made of them to kind of play act of them being together again.
Oh.
And basically during the game, the events brings them back together. But the characters she made of the husband and the wife are like the husband's made out of clay, so as a result, he looks when you're playing him, he looks like he's got clay arms and a clay face and everything, and his hair's made from leaves, and his kind of jumper is like a tiny little woolen jumper. But as a result of being scale that up, you'd have to make it from like quite thick,
Really chunky.
chunky,
Yeah.
like either foam dowels or that kind of really chunky wool that you can buy.
Yeah, you can do. Is that knitting, isn't it, where you
Yeah.
use your arms instead of knitting needles and
Yeah,
stuff? Maybe that
so
kind of thing. That
it,
sounds really cute and quite a change from your usual cosplays.
yes, it would be a new skill set.
Another one.
um, be,
Leveling up all the time.
because it would probably involve kind of more upholstery foam and then covering that, and then maybe some to make it flexible but also look like clay, probably maybe using latex to skin it and what have you. So it's probably a longer term plan, but it's something that I've been thinking about. Like I did some rudimentary sketches of like the oversized button that appears on the model and the leaf that's behind it, which would be quite straightforward to make out of foam, but the other stuff will need more thought on how to do it. Again, it would be a cosplay with a full face mask. No change there.
Do you have a dream cosplay? If you had some sort of button, or like you're in the Matrix or whatever, and you could download all the skills immediately that you'd need, is there a dream cosplay that you would choose?
I always think about this, and my answer always changes every time I do it. And
Well, today, this time, where are we? In the middle of June 2021. I nearly said 2020 then, I'm going back in time. What is it today?
the two I would probably always go back to. First one is Mark 1 Iron Man armor.
Yes.
Because it looks very kind of. It would be like a return to form of Big Daddy in the fact it would be kind of chunky armor again and what have you.
So we're talking MCU Iron Man 1.
Yes.
Red, yes, red, because that's much less ostentatious. Yeah.
So the kind of bare steel and iron look of, funny enough, Iron Man before he went all kind of streamlined. Funny enough, the other one is another kind of big armor build, which would be a Space Marine from the Warhammer 40k universe.
Oh, wow. They're big as well. Do you mean one of those big oversized builds where you're on stilts?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
Because Space Marines in that universe are kind of like...
They're like mech suits, I guess.
Well, they're all going to go all nerdy and say, well, they're almost like bonded to their armor. Because they're basically super soldiers akin to Master Chief from Halo or Captain America. And it's all genetically enhanced stuff and what have you. But as a result, they're invariably quite tall. And even to wear the Space Marine power armor, you need to be quite hefty. So as a result, a lot of cosplayers who do it usually are on stilts or blocks for the extra height. But yeah, to do that would be challenging from the scale. Because it's kind of broadly smooth surfaces, it's not so mad to make. It's about how to wear it, I think, is the challenge.
The logistics of it more than the build part.
Again, you need handlers when doing those sort of things.
Yeah, need a little support team, cosplay support team.
Yeah, anything involving stilts or being on blocks or anything, you kind of need a second pair of hands to help out when it all goes a bit, I need to take a break.
Yeah. Okay, we have another fun question, I guess, as we're getting towards the end. What piece of music or song or whatever would be your theme tune?
Oh, this is easy.
You don't have to give an explanation, but you can if you want to.
Back in Black by AC/DC. It used to be my ringtone on, I don't know how many phones ago. Back when you could have music as a ringtone easily. But yeah, like everyone I knew at the time when I was at my car saying, "Oh, like David's theme tune is Back in Black," and I was like, "Well, yes, it is. Why wouldn't it be?"
You're actually not wearing so much black today, just your hoodie.
It's warm. Well, humid.
True. Now, I did want to mention as well, you will be running the Brighton Marathon in September this year, which was postponed from April 2020.
Yes. So originally it was moved back to September 2020, then cancelled entirely, and then replaced with what should have been there wouldn't have been April 21 as normal. Then April 21 got moved to September 21. Okay. And then entries to 21 got moved to April 22. It's all very confusing. I have so many emails about date changes and cancellations and moving entries and what have you. It's almost comedic.
So you were all almost ready to go with the training for April 2020. And then obviously the plague hit the world. So now that has all been, with all of the chops and changes, you will be running a really long way in Brighton again in September this year. And you're not running in cosplay.
That would be madness.
Thankfully. Although we do have a friend that does that sort of thing occasionally.
He's going to get all ninja-y.
Yeah, bless him. When you run, or when you're running this one and previously, you raise money for Mind charity, and you do other things throughout the year as well as running a really long way to raise money for that. And at the moment, because last year we did a kind of a collab and I painted your peek-a-pool and that was kind of raffled off.
Yes, so anyone who donated were put in, their names were put into a pot, and then I did a draw during last summer. When
sort of July time, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, because it was before they ended up moving it again, so it was like fundraising for what would have been September 2020, and that went out to the winner.
I'll try and do a timeline on the video for this to explain what on earth we're talking about, but there we go.
It's kind of like the MCU timeline. It's very confusing. But now, well, technically it is my third marathon, and I'm still fundraising for my third marathon. I've had to kind of restart my fundraising pool on the Virgin Giving website because I couldn't link it to the right event anymore. So
too much time had passed, I suppose.
Yeah, and I tried to get it done on their end, but I ended up saying, "Oh, okay, I'll draw a line under the fundraising last year." All the money gets transferred to Mind on an ongoing basis anyway.
So the charities have been receiving the funds as we go.
So now I've got a new fundraising page, and people who donate get again put into the pot for one of 4 raffle prizes, 2 of which are cosplay related. And Red Hood related, and one is a 3D printed Red Hood helmet, which was the first Red Hood helmet I did. I'm sure there'll be some photos ending up showing this of me wearing it. Second is a foam-based helmet I made during lockdown, and then the other 2 things are cushions featuring art by Hannah. Her Belladonna Kiss skull artwork and her Moon Dragon artwork.
Dragon Moon, yeah. A shameless plug for my own work here.
So I'm still umming and ahhing about when I'm going to do that draw, but any people who donate will be put into the mix for that, and have a chance of getting something funky out of supporting me in my fundraising and putting the money towards a good cause.
Cool. I will, of course, link out to your Virgin Giving page in the notes underneath the video, or the comments underneath the video as well. How's your training going for that? I know this isn't technically cosplay related, but how's it going?
I'm week 5 of 17.
Ooh.
Comfortably doing 10 miles now on my long runs on Sunday. So my final 10-mile long run is tomorrow, and then it'll be building up to half marathons distance and beyond. I'm running the Vitality Big Half in August as a 4-week shakedown before the big event, which is going to be fun because it could potentially be quite warm.
It's going to be toasty hot, isn't it? That's going to be hard.
Because the last time I did it was February, literally about 3 weeks before the lockdown last year. Funny enough, it was the same weekend I went to my last con, which was LFCC Spring. So yeah, I'm aiming to. Well, the subtitle of my third marathon is The Pursuit of the Sub 3 hours and 58 minutes. Because today, my first 2 marathons, I've done them in just over, in about 3 minutes 58 and 3 minutes 58, 3 hours 58 minutes.
I was going to say, and proper speedy,
and 30 seconds. So I'm hoping to get below that 58 and hopefully below 3 hours 50, all being well.
Wicked. Well, we can keep people posted as we go. I will link out to all of your pages for that in the notes too. And good luck for when that happens, and good luck for 10 miles tomorrow. That sounds awful, quite frankly, as a non-runner. So, last question, really, I guess. What tip or kind of golden nugget of information would you tell your younger self back at the start of your cosplay journey? Would it be like a tip or a believe in yourself, or do this for confidence, or?
I've been thinking about, having seen the questions beforehand. I've been thinking about this for a while.
Very professional and prepared here.
And it's a tricky one in a way because, during my cosplay journey to date,
you should have just seen the face he pulled saying that. So much cringe, bless him.
I hate the use of journey during a life experience.
It's a journey.
I've just kind of thought, I'll give that a go. What I guess I would tell myself if I was doing some of my earlier cosplays or cosplay build again, I'd probably say give yourself more time. I ended up giving myself more time out of necessity, but I would have probably told myself, don't assume something's going to take 6 months to build. If it's a big build, allow more than that.
Yeah.
And then don't try and rush towards the end because it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And it takes that pressure away, doesn't it? If you've given yourself not a longer deadline, but more breathing space, once the pressure's off, although pressure can be great for getting things done, it gives you more space to be creative and take your time and get it exactly how you want it, I suppose. He's nodding. There we go.
Sorry, podcast.
I think that's it, really. Is there anything else you'd like to add for anyone listening? Anyone who's just starting out with cosplay or running, or has twitching? It's not called twitching, is it? Or streaming on Twitch.
Start out slowly. Build in cosplay. Build up your skills gradually. Do as I do, don't do as I do. But if you want to cosplay, find a character that you love, or the universe you like, and set a budget that you're happy to spend on it, and source it, make it. But definitely choose a character you like and love, because it makes it so much more fun and easy to do. Running, again, start slowly. Build up your distance gradually. Don't feel disheartened if it takes you a while to cover a distance. like all my training plans are based around time. So you run for X number of minutes rather than running a distance, because if you work around a time-based running, gradually you'll speed up and you'll cover a greater distance in the same amount of time. So, and it's far more rewarding that way rather than thinking, oh man, I've got to run 10 miles. It's more of like, oh, I've got to run X number of minutes. And then streaming, if you want to give it a go, give it a go. Just do all the research, read all the guides and the advice like there's loads of advice out there on Tinternet about how to start streaming, what to use, how to do your setup, how to like I've had to learn how to do sound balancing and stuff like that, which is like was before I did it was
You wouldn't even know it existed,
No.
would you?
and the fact that you can do great things with quite a straightforward setup. So like a gaming headset with a mic and what have you, a basic webcam, and and give it a go. Like you don't have to invest lots and lots of money to start streaming. Like the latest generation of consoles have streaming setups built in, so you can start streaming on Twitch with your PlayStation, or if you with or without a camera.
Yeah.
So it's as more people get into streaming, it's becoming more approachable and more
It's more accessible, I guess.
yeah,
for people,
accessible.
yeah.
That's the word I was looking for.
I know approachable works as well, because all of these things seem like a dark art until you start doing it, and then you go, oh, that's not so bad after all.
Sort of thing. Starting off from the base, starting off at a kind of basic level, and then just adding stuff as you go along. Like, don't expect you need to go in all whiz bang fancy effects and everything from the get go, because that's part of the. I'm going to say it again, the journey that you go on. But no, it's good fun, and if you want to give it a go, I fully recommending people you do.
Wicked. Oh, well, thank you so much for being my guinea pig and my first interviewee for this, hopefully, series of creative interviews. Where can we find you online if people want to kind of check out your builds and your Twitches and stuff? Obviously, I'll put the links below, but where are you?
I'm mostly for cosplay stuff, I'm mostly on Instagram mainly Instagram, which is BarbDWitt Cosplay. I also have a Facebook page, again, BarbDWitt Cosplay. I've started to tweet more on Twitter with details of cosplay work in progress and stuff I'm streaming on Twitch. And you can find me at David Barber 1984, but it will come up as BarbDWitt Cosplay. There's a recurring theme coming on here. And then finally, my Twitch channel is just BarbDWitt.
Wicked. Thank you. And, yeah. Thanks for coming to see us this afternoon. It's been really nice to see you after such a long time.
Yes, it's been great.
Have a safe journey home.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that. I will work on my question technique for my next guest when they join me. I want to say a huge thank you to David for coming along and being my guinea pig for this first guest interview. I had loads of fun chatting to him, and it was really nice to see him after such a long time. I will drop all of his links below, so social media, Twitch, and fundraising pages for the marathon. So you will be able to find him as well really easily. If you enjoyed the podcast, then you can listen to all existing episodes so far by joining my Patreon page from just £3 plus tax a month. I'll drop the link to that below, and you'll be able to hear the back catalogue as it stands so far. Similarly, if you enjoyed listening here on YouTube, then feel free to give me a thumbs up and a like. And if you click the subscribe button, you'll get a little ping or notification each time I share something new. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll speak to you again soon. Stay safe, everyone.